different activities that we put on within the sustainability office, whether it's a volunteer events or workshops or other educational opportunities. I just wanted to take a few minutes to highlight a few of the upcoming opportunities in the next month or so that everyone is more than willing to, that we are inviting as many people to join us as possible. This coming Saturday, there's a sandbag removal event in partnership with our stormwater division to help community members in need remove unnecessary sandbags in the Coconino Estates neighborhood. If you're able to attend, more hands make lighter work for sure. And we'll be meeting at the Sustainability Office at 419 North Mogollon Saturday morning just before 9 a.m. And then the following Saturday, there's a Fix-It clinic being hosted at the Joe C. Montoya Community and Senior Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we encourage community members to bring items that are in disrepair, whether it's a household item like a lamp or clothing that needs to be sewed. We have some dedicated volunteers to help people learn different skills or knowledge about how to even troubleshoot how to fix a household item, and hopefully reducing items that are going to the landfill. Ward Davis, who you just saw, is a longtime volunteer for that event. And it is great to see people at work. Even if you don't have anything that needs fixing, stop on by. It's a really cool event. And then throughout the month of August, there's a couple watershed or stream steward related events. On the 10th, there is a watershed cleanup series where community members, volunteers, staff from sustainability, from stormwater, and other community partners come together to help clean up sections of the Rio de Flag, whether it's invasive species removal or flood debris removal as well. And then on August 17th, one of our fantastic AmeriCorps members, or Climate Corps member, Katie Seals, will be hosting a Walk the Rio program to talk a little bit about the history and interconnection between the city of Flagstaff, the people that have lived here, and the Rio de Flag. And in the very beginning of September, there is a large scale, a full scale operation, an exercise happening at the airport to help airport personnel and emergency responding agencies in preparing for an event, a mass casualty event. And hopefully that will never happen, knock on wood, but we want to be as well prepared for that as possible. And I am helping the efforts, coordinating and recruiting for volunteers to play people who were on that aircraft. So we're looking for people to spend the whole day doing that. And if you can't spend the whole day, that's okay. I can put other volunteers and other people to work assisting with coordinating those different groups. And all of this information is in the Flagstaff Sustainability Office newsletter. So definitely check that out every month for these really cool education opportunities and other volunteer efforts. And I know you are all volunteers, and I greatly appreciate all of your input and efforts and your dedication to the field of sustainability. So thank you all so much for the time and hearing some of what is up and coming. And again, that's all in the newsletter. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Commissioner Metzger.
Just what was the date of the catastrophic thing? I signed up for it and I didn't put it on my calendar.
No worries. So the as it's being termed, and there's press releases coming out, it's Operation Ready Flag, happening on Monday, September 9th. And there is information on social media about this, and there's a joint press release coming out soon between the city of Flagstaff, the airport, and United Way. United Way is helping us with their volunteer hub portal in the interim while we're waiting for our volunteer software program to get up and running.
Thank you, Stephen. And we have Al White.
Yes, I believe.
For public comment,
Or was Al just gonna listen, or?
He wanted to
Okay.
give his.
Al, are you interested in saying a few words?
Muted? His microphone is muted.
He did say that he was having a hard time finding his mic.
He's also on the, I think on the phone too. Cause I texted him the call-in number.
Oh.
Al, are you able to speak?
Hello, can you hear me now? All right, very good. Okay, so, hi, hello, Nicole, it's been a long time since I've seen you.
I know,
It's
hi,
nice
Al.
to see you again. And I want to echo what Ward had to say. I want you to also know that I was the council representative on the very first Sustainability Commission meeting when we had 9 people, and was instrumental in getting sustainability away from clean and green, where you just went around and picked up trash and planted flowers, to where you really had some kind of significant input in what sustainability elements were adopted and started to actually be used by the city of Flagstaff. Secondly, I want you to know that I bid on the contract to do recycling in 1996, came in second to Norton Environmental, who then proceeded to waste the next 25 years doing a moderately okay job, I guess, but certainly did not improve and expand the recycling capabilities of the city of Flagstaff in a way that I think you have the possibility to do. And I think the Sustainability Commission would be the ideal place to monitor the progress of recycling as it grows, and as the city of Flagstaff tries to kind of mount that force. And I think that the efficiencies that you can incorporate can extend the life of your landfill. And extending the life of the landfill will save you significant money in the long run, save the taxpayers significant money. And I think that's where it's at. So with that, I'll close. I don't need to go on much longer, but I really do think that some kind of reporting system needs to be put into place. The Sustainability Commission can do a great job of monitoring it, and it'll be another voice for the public to talk about what can be done in recycling. I know Friedman's has just added the number 5 plastic to what you guys can take. And these kinds of things the city ought to be jumping on as soon as you can, with a publicity campaign, getting out there, talking to people about what they can put in their barrels and how they ought to do it. And then also you have input, I think, in what solid waste does in terms of how they compact and ship, and what they can do to maximize efficiencies there. So I'm happy to see the welcoming attitude that you have towards me and Ward coming in and pushing this, and I encourage you to do as much as you can. And thanks very much. Maybe next month I'll be there. Thanks.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Are there any other public comments? Okay, then let's move on to the approval of the minutes from June. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes from June.
Second.
Right, fantastic. So moving on to business, we are going to start with the Sustainability Division May and June monthly report, which will be given to us by Brady Henderson, the Health and Resilience Coordinator for Climate Corps. Brady?
So my name is Brady Henderson. For those of you that I have not had a chance to meet yet, I work at the Sustainability Office as the Health and Resilience Coordinator. I'm an AmeriCorps member. I just graduated from NAU with a degree in public health, and I'll be pursuing this fall.
Good for you.
Yeah, exciting stuff. So some of my responsibilities at the Sustainability Office, I'm mainly in charge or work with the free HEPA filter program, as well as the flood prevention grant program. So that's kind of my forte at the moment. But I'll jump right into the report so we get this going. So some highlights. We had the Flagstaff Green Schoolyards Coalition featured in an Environmental and Energy Study Institute, or the EESI. So on May 23rd, the mayor highlighted positive energy impacts of the Green Schoolyard program on the Flagstaff community. And yeah, there's a little link in the slideshow to learn more. Tia for doing the scrolling for me. Next, we had the Flagstaff Green Business Boot Camp. So this first cohort of Flagstaff Green Business Boot Camp. It was on June 12th. We had some presentations from 4 participating Flagstaff.
Lineup is trying to figure out which one did the deed. Well, number 4, please step forward.
Yeah, so it had some participants from Shift Kitchen, Kickstand Cafe, Arizona Behavioral Health Associates, and Knacker Pepsi. So the second Green Business Boot Camp cohort will start on September this year. So next, we can move into the climate action aspect, and we can talk about the community resilience. So council accepted a $1 million grant between the EPA and the city for the Flagstaff Regional Resilience Project. So this is going to go towards 3 resilience hubs in Flagstaff, mainly addressing community identified needs. So these hubs are going to provide resources, services, training, and spaces for just people to build connections and enhance local resilience. So this is going to happen with 13 community collaborators all around Flagstaff. And yeah. And then
Are
next,
those collaborators named somewhere? Can we see that someplace? No.
they were not.
Okay, that's right. Just curious.
I think that will be more.
Sure, like the press release. So that was, we got the grant a while ago, but we finally got council to like accept it formally, right? Kind of finalized our documents more recently for May and June.
Is that May Climate Resilience Project the one we did at the Mesa?
Yes, yes. I was going to jump into that. And yeah, but also about the resilience hubs, we had a meeting with all the partners, and we were able to talk about some more ideas and just ways the hubs can get off the ground and be a success. And so yeah, next we did have the Climate Resilience Project, which was up on Observatory Mesa, and we were able to partner with Flagstaff Fire as well as the Forest Service to check out 3 distinct forests and fire impacted forests, essentially, to see what a healthy forest looks like, as well as one that is overgrown and is going to need some controlled burns. And it was really cool event just to get out and check out.
Without taking away your time, it was well done. You were very orchestrated. It was impressively organized and very, very informative. Learned a lot. I learned a lot that day.
It was a great time.
It was
It was
great.
awesome just to get involved with the community, and chances to hang out with the fire people is always fun. Sweet. Next up, we had the first cohort of climate resilience leaders. They completed their 6-week training on building.
They got t-shirts. I didn't get a t-shirt when I did that. I want a t-shirt.
We're gonna have to make that.
That's the best.
What the heck?
2 familiar faces.
Yeah. So yeah, participants learned about climate issues facing Flagstaff neighborhoods, developed leadership skills, and began projects to increase some neighborhood resilience all around Flagstaff. And there's an awesome picture. Sweet. So next up, we can talk about equity and engagement. So the climate team directly engaged with 177 people in May and 123 people in June. In May, the Equity Climate Advisory Group discussed the function, processes, and outcomes of commissions. So advisory members provided input on ensuring transparency of applicants, collecting optional demographic data, increasing meeting accessibility through accommodations, offering training on power dynamics and systems, exploring opportunities for collaboration between commissions, and generating innovative ideas for ex officio members. And then in June, the Equity Climate Advisory Group focused on communications and shared current communication methods and discussed engagement strategies. So next we can jump to the building fuel switching and reduced energy use. So the home weatherization and energy rebates program assisted 14 homes in May and an estimated 11 homes in June. They distributed over 12,000 for home heating installation and electrified appliances. And this program has served approximately 145 residents this fiscal year, providing nearly $168,000 in assistance.
I got that one too.
Yeah. So,
I feel like I'm on every single one of these little paragraphs.
So, next, under the citywide and water conservation program with Noresco, flow meters and sensors were installed at 17 parks to improve water efficiency and provide real-time data to detect and stop leaks and adjust for the weather. And there's a little link in the presentation if you want to read more. And then next, the sustainability staff presented the biannual carbon neutrality plan progress report to the city council. That was on June 18th, which was exciting. I got to speak for a couple minutes to talk about some updates on the HEPA program, which was awesome. And yeah, we got to discuss Flagstaff's carbon neutrality goals with focus on emissions from building, energy, and transportation. So there is a link to the recording there as well. Next up, we get to talk about transportation and electrification. So just recently, the Sustainability Office received 8 new electric bikes to supplement the e-bike program for the city.
Are those rentable? Is that what people do? They rent it and they ride around it?
No, it's only for city
Nice.
staff,
Oh, okay.
but it's just trying to cut
Yeah.
down on car trips and all of that. I put three together yesterday, so we're gonna get them out
Good job.
to the staff. Once we get them checked by a bike shop to make sure I did my job.
A little Santa's helper. Christmas time, it's real important to be able to put bikes together.
Yep, so we're going to get those to 4 new locations, so parks, East Side Utility Shop, Core Services, and the Lake Mary water treatment plant. And then to follow that up, we had 12 new level 2 electric vehicle charging ports. They were installed at Core Services. 2 level 2 charging ports were added to the East Side Utilities Shop. And yeah, next up, some sustainability staff and other city partners from transportation, engineering, public works, and other divisions supported MetroPlan, Mountain Line, and Flagstaff Arts and Leadership Academy. Creative Flagstaff and others implementing the Cheshire Slow Street asphalt art project. Super cool project going on. Getting everyone to get community members together and make some cool art and hopefully slow down some traffic. If you want to read more, there's also a link on the presentation. So next up, we get to talk about the youth in Flagstaff. So Nick Garcia and Catherine Lee are high school sustainability officers. They are halfway through their AmeriCorps term and they're doing a great job. And now that they're both out of school, Nick and Kathy are supporting the sustainability offices, volunteer and community events. They're getting involved all the ways we can, trying to get them as many opportunities to get out in the community. And sweet, so the Sustainability Office is very proud to support another Youth Climate Action Challenge team. So this team is a group of students who will construct a series of feeding gardens at the Mural, the Hogan, and the Quaywag Indigenous Culture Center Church gardens. So these gardens are going to consist of vegetables and herbs, and each garden is planned to be connected through pollinator plants. So that will take us to our neighborhood engagement and volunteer services. So we get to talk about the Community Stewards Program. So May and June, the Community Steward stats, they're all up on there. We had a lot of people getting involved, over 600 volunteers working to remove litter from the foots, ab and stream sections. So these sections are available for both adoption and one-time cleanup efforts if anyone would like to get involved any more than you already are. The Community Stewards Program partnered with the City of Flagstaff Open Spaces and Climate Resilience Project to host the Invasive Plant Species Workshop at Fox Glen Park on June 11th. So this was a cool opportunity to be able to identify invasive plants and the best route to take to, get rid of those. And then next, the Sustainability Office partnered with Discover Flagstaff to provide supplies and join the Tourism Service Day cleanups in May. These cleanups bring local businesses together to pick up litter from the Flagstaff area. And during these, we had a total of 23 pounds of recycling, 125 pounds of trash, and 2.5 pounds of glass collected. And here's some pictures from those events. Super cool.
There was a program a few years back where there was like, we did 30 minutes on March 30th or something like that. Do you remember that?
We used to do that 15-minute
Yeah.
makeover. Yeah, we started that in 2010. No, gosh, 2009. It was just becoming a little too difficult to
Oh.
coordinate and get data on.
Okay,
Yeah,
I loved it.
yeah, it was really
Yeah,
fun. So the whole
15
thing was
minutes.
on October 15th. You walk outside for 15 minutes and pick up litter wherever you're at.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
On Wesley Palace, a very littered street.
Sweet. Next up, we get to talk about the Stream Steward program. So in May and June, there were 3 cleanups with 5 bags of recycling, 24 bags of trash, 3 bags of invasive plants with 28 people and a total of 48 service hours. So super cool opportunity to get involved and just with the Stream Stewards, and their watershed cleanup series started on Saturday, June 8th, near the Rio de Flag in Fox Glen. This work is going to reduce potential flooding and, reduce potential flooding and increase the natural habitat for plants and animals. And the next watershed cleanup is going to be on Saturday, July 13th. So
That's
We're past
past.
that, darling.
Oh,
It's coming up though, so there's another one coming up pretty soon.
We finished this report on like July 1st, so
sorry.
our July one is not complete yet.
Sweet. So the Stream Stewards and Event Climate Resilience Corps members provided 12 orientations and refreshers to our Stream Stewards in May and June. And these orientations included taking stewards into their adopted sections of the Rio de Flag to discuss what it means to become a Stream Steward and give the adopters time to become familiar with their space. Sweet. And next up, we can talk about engage, empower, and elevate grant. So the sustainability staff and members of the community assistance teams, CATS, of Flagstaff presented the Engage, Empower, the E3 grant, essentially, to City Council on Tuesday, June 11th. And this shows some of the program data with lots of trash bags.
Do you all know what the E3 program is?
No,
So yeah, we, with BBB funds, the tax on bed, beverage, et cetera, pay $30,000 to a community group, in this case, community assistant teams of Flagstaff, receive the funding through a formal procurement process to pay unhoused or folks at risk of being unhoused a living wage to go pick up litter around the community.
it's a great idea.
Yes, it has just really amazing impacts. The stories coming out, it also provides, skills building, and the feeling of being a part of the community and giving back and feeling appreciated can really help these people, or just in terms of like mental health, if they're experiencing, suicidal
Life
ideation
struggles.
even.
Whatever their struggles might be.
So
That's really good.
Yeah.
Do we help support that with any of the grant money we have? Because I mean, that sounds like exactly what.
Yeah, we like run the program, but we just like, it's a transfer through, so I don't know how else to.
They've already got the money coming from
So-
something else.
Right.
CATS has received numerous grants through the Neighborhood Sustainability Grants Program. They've also received funding through beautification and arts. The budget team decided to fund this Engage, Empower, and Elevate program through BBB funds just because of the litter removal. So there has been crossover, but it is in our budget. So it does come out, but they have CAT specifically. The Neighborhood Sustainability Grants have funded remodeling of the CATS bus to incorporate, to finish out their shower stalls and the bathroom in there.
And they got one last year, to convert like construction waste into products that can be sold and to build, like woodworking skills.
So they're working on that now.
That's a great group, this cat. That's great. They're doing all of that?
And they're gonna be one of our resilience hub partners.
Yeah.
Mobile for us. So,
And if the commission is interested, we can ask them to come in. They just did their annual update for the council. It's a really powerful presentation.
I never heard of them, but it sounds like they're doing a lot of good. Yeah.
So with that, there's been a ton of volunteers, so the employee volunteer policy. There are multiple opportunities for the end of June, which already passed for weed polls and at the Heritage Festival in the Museum of Northern Arizona. Some data right over there. So then we get to talk about neighborhood engagement and outreach. So the Community Stewards Coordinator continued to present information on the sustainability of upcoming events and ways to get involved with the Coffee Clutch and the Friends of the Rio de Flag in May and June. So sharing this information is a great way to get more opportunities for partnerships and just get more community involvement for upcoming events and activities. Next week, food systems. So our community gardens, they are in full swing. We're having gardener orientations and kickoff potlucks. There are 5 events. 5 events have already been hosted at the various gardens, during which staff engaged with 80 community gardeners. So all community garden plots have been filled for a total of 75 plots across 3 gardens. And with that, garden expansion is in progress at all 3 sites. Community gardeners and volunteers will collaborate to build new raised beds, in-ground beds to increase the garden's capacity for growing food producing and pollinator plants. So in response to grazing by deer and other wildlife visiting Bonito Garden, a fence was installed, which is super exciting, and it was completed on June 12th. So next steps will be to invite gardeners and community members to participate in painting and planting days, which some of them have already happened. There. Next, we have the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. Sustainability staff spent the month of May preparing events to collaborate National Pollinator Week, which was June 17th to the 23rd. There's a link to some of the activities that happened. So throughout June, sustainability staff collaborated with partners to host a series of community engagement events and activities to celebrate National Pollinator Week, which was, we had the Pollinator Art Lab with the Downtown Library, the 2024 Exploring Pollinators Art Contest, which had over 40 art submissions from a whole range of age groups, and the Pollinator Fest with the Arboretum, and Pollinator Education at the Arboretum. So both there, which had a chance to provide engaging learning opportunities for summer camp participants. And then we also had the Pollinator Mural Garden Planting Day on June 22nd. So expanding pollinator habitat in front of the Sustainability Office and the Bonito Community Garden. And then, we move on to food systems policy, integrating food systems into the regional plan. So in collaboration with Flagstaff Food Link and the Flagstaff Family Food Center, sustainability staff prepared and presented to the Flagstaff 2045 Regional Planning Committee on the current state of local food systems, food insecurity, and potential policy that could be incorporated into that plan to support the building of a sustainable, resilient, and equitable food system through land use and zoning changes. So, talk about waste prevention. So with compost, there was 5,100 plus pounds of food waste diverted from the landfill in May through the residential food scraps drop-off program. June data will be available soon. Is that already available?
Yeah.
John?
we just don't have data after.
Yep. Sweet. And then more about waste reduction. We had our fixing clinic at the May one. 663 pounds were diverted from the landfill, and over 60 community members learned ways to repair household items. Further diverting stuff from the landfill, from small appliances to clothing, bikes, many different things. And then we get to talk about the outreach. So food and waste staff engaged with more than 615 people in May and June. And tabling season has begun. Sustainability staff have been out and about at Flagstaff town markets, mountain town markets, the library, been all over essentially. Team members have tabled at the market, the Flagstaff Mountain Town Market, 4 times and interacted with 96 community members. Sweet. And we just talked about this Sustainability Commission. The June Sustainability Commission meeting already happened.
Thank you for sharing.
I think that's all, yeah. There is 1 vacancy and we are recruiting new applicants. So, and then finally, talk about social media. So our Facebook had reached 28,469 people and engaged with 747 people. Gained 93 followers, bringing the following count up to 10,339. And then our Instagram post reached 11,322 people and engaged 839 people. And we gained 51 followers, bringing us up to 2,354 followers. And here are just examples from our Instagram and Facebook posts. Good post.
It's a fun one, yeah.
Since
But yeah.
you bottle caps on plastic bottles.
That's great engagement on social media. Well done. I've managed social media before and I know it's really hard to get into the thousands and
Oh, yeah.
10,000s.
Tia and Kaylee do an awesome job, especially on very short notice when we need.
Shout out to Kaylee.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to hear about all of the opportunities for young people, high school students, youth climate engagement. I have young people in my home and that's a huge concern for them and their futures. I have one question. The EV charging ports you mentioned, are those for like Flagstaff fleet or are they for public use? Because I think, you know, the expansion of EV infrastructure is fantastic, but I wasn't clear on whether they were like being installed at city facilities for city vehicles.
So both, actually. So yeah, and we currently 14 of our charging stations are funded through the APS Smart Charging program, which currently doesn't have any opportunities. And the ones that are currently going in are through our citywide energy conservation project with Noresco. So right now, all the charging stations are on city property. The ones that are more public facing through APS, which are at the Aquaplex, just outside City Hall, at the Convention and Visitors, the Amtrak station. Those are all for public use. As we start to convert more and more of our fleet to electric, we are going to need to identify specific charging stations that are for city fleet and have priority. Right now, we don't have that. So we anticipate that we're going to, well, we need more charging stations at City Hall. So we actually have completed a citywide infrastructure analysis for electric vehicle conversion. So we know where we need to target first while also serving the community. So right now we're actually applying for a federal grant. Our goal with the carbon neutrality plan is to have 50 public accessible charging stations with 2 ports in each charging station. So we're trying to build that out with funding through, hopefully we'll get it. So it's a mix of both, but right now everything is available to the community. We do need, as I noted, to start prioritizing city fleet. So the most recent installations at Public Works or core services are to prioritize for those fleet. But we also recognize that it's very close to the I-40 corridor. So there is opportunity there. The grant that we're applying for is going to focus on low income and multifamily housing.
So I was talking about electric bicycles though, and isn't the same kind of charging station for a bicycle as per car?
No.
So a person who has an electric bicycle just better get it charged at home.
Correct. And the chargers are pretty light. If you do run into an emergency or something, you would be able to just run it on a regular outlet, but hopefully not.
Are they gonna upgrade any of those? Cause they're all level 2 chargers, I think is what I.
They are level 2. We're gonna go after hopefully 2 level 3, so fast chargers. The ADOT's infrastructure plan is more about corridors, and fast charging it along corridors. So every 50 miles along major corridors, they want fast chargers. That's ADOT's plan. Right now, we have kind of bookend superchargers through Tesla. We have nothing to do with that. I mean, I met with them, but they have their own agenda. Since Tesla has opened up to Ford, I know they're still distributing the charge ports, or cables, if you will. But, so we do have some superchargers in Flagstaff, but they're very limited and.
Yeah, Walmart's the only place I've seen the superchargers.
What are the ones over by the Bashes? There's some by that taco restaurant. There's.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are all private. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
was gonna ask, and I don't know if you have this information, but I was very curious about this because ADOT keeps talking about these service chargers at various spots.
Mhm.
Are they just gonna have them on the side of the road? Are they gonna be at rest areas? Because it looks like they've got them scheduled for different places on the freeway.
Well, they have to, the infrastructure that's needed for them is significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be at Sunset Point, basically, but not just down the road, whatever.
I don't think we have that full level of detail. Yeah, and there are the other, so the, oh my gosh, there's so much. The, totally blanking. It just lost the name.
We're not setting
Charging infrastructure. Charge America.
Point or-
Yeah, ChargePoint. Well, we use ChargePoint, but Charge America has the superchargers. So if you have an electric vehicle, you have an app and it will tell you where all charging stations are. If they're level 2 or if they're free, what the price point is per kilowatt at certain times of the day and so forth. Yeah. So we have a few, but we need more. But we also need it for our infrastructure too. So we're hoping that we can tie in emergency management in this grant we're going for.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of stuff.
You were very interesting too. Thank you for your report. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
After that experience I had up on the Mesa Rim, bought myself an air filter for my house.
Oh,
I immediately did what you told me to do. Well, for seniors in the neighborhood, when you have controlled burns, you're gonna need to be careful of your breathing. Okay, better go buy a air filter then.
That's what we love to hear.
Yes, yeah, Home Depot loved it too.
Like that.
No, I didn't get it from Home Depot, though. I got it from a company. But nevertheless, I learned a lot from you that day. Thank you. It's educating me.
Does anybody else have questions or comments for Brady? Great, thank you so much.
You guys.
Great work, sustainability. Really
Going on.
a lot going on.
Not very many, do very many cities have sustainability divisions? Are we pretty rare that way, or is that everybody has, we have a fabulous group?
So when I started in 2007, there was about 75 of us. Now there are thousands
Oh.
of
Across
like
the country.
programs. I mean,
Across the
How-
country, not in Arizona.
across the country, yeah. But when I started, it was me and one other person in the city of Tucson.
Oh, you started in Tucson.
No. The city of Tucson had one person.
Oh, I see.
And Flagstaff had,
In all of Arizona.
yeah, in all of Arizona.
And now there are professional networks like the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. And
It's the
it's,
Sustainable Cities Network, which is just Arizona.
and Climate Mayors, which is not sustainability divisions, but
The mayors
yes,
of communities that have initiatives.
that has sustainability initiatives. It's pretty.
It's getting ginned up pretty well.
All right, let's move on to our next and final order of business, the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant fiscal year 25 working group updates, which is Commissioner Metzger, Lammy, and Skurlock. Turn it over to you.
First of all, we were guided with great alacrity by Tia.
I bet you were.
He was our major force and guidance in this whole project.
Yes.
Appreciate you all and the work you've done.
Well, let's see,
the first half of this document, we kind of rewrote according to an outline because it was a little bit jumbled and repetitive in certain places. So the proposed outline is there, you see it right there. It starts.
And then you have copies to people.
So it's just, the first part is, well, more or less an overview. States the grant goals, just the grant categories and who's eligible. Then the second one, and I don't know if just to critique the outline, is this, this might, the category specific objectives being in the document itself instead of as an appendix, I think we should just consider having that as an appendix instead of in the document, so to speak. But actually I have it. Okay, and then thirdly, the application submission and review process, estimate the application, the grant evaluation criteria, at least an overview of that. It's not the actual rubric, but it briefly describes what's in the rubric. And the review process, which includes the timeline, and then what, this might be a little bit of a mistake, but then the grant recipient requirements and reporting, and that might actually need to be a separate outline item sort of thing, but not that it really matters at the moment. And then finally, the last thing, I think, I don't think we changed, at least nothing dramatic. We didn't change anything about the support for grant writing or anything subsequent to that came after. So
Predominantly, the focus of the group was to look at ways to ensure the meeting of the needs of underserved groups. That we talked about that relative to the equity conversation that we had. And so we were looking at the grant really with that focus more than anything else. We also did things like, took out a few commas, added a few words. We didn't do a lot. And as Tom said, you noticed a lot of the different fonts that need to be changed and things need to be.
Sure as well. So, right, yeah.
A little bit more professional look, Roger. Yeah, sorry. And we did talk about something we thought needed to be discussed at large, which was, do you add points or do you weigh in where a grant has more support for underserved communities? Should we be leaning in some way to give extra support to those groups? We have it within the rubric is one of the three areas is attention to groups who are generally underserved. And we talked about the notion of perhaps if we really are committed to this idea that we don't have enough support for groups within our community who are of minorities, who are lower socioeconomic, who are having trouble accessing equity, that should we give a little bit more weight in terms of the points to those groups? And we didn't, in looking at the rubric, obviously, the first segment of the rubric has to do with, do you address all three? And you got extra points if you hit all three. Well, should we be giving extra points if they specifically hit the third one? And making that something that we really basically put our weight behind, something we really believe in, we think we should be saying to people. But of course, it would have to be completely clear to anybody applying. You can't say, oh, on the side, we're going to give more points because they have this other thing. We have to say to them, this is something that we're looking at seeing within the right structure.
yeah, so for example, it could be that, well, there's these three things, facilitate volunteer engagement, build community partnerships, and then lastly, what Mary was talking about was meaningfully involve underserved communities. Those are our three overarching goals. And if we weighted the last one, involve underserved communities, give that 3 points and the other two 1 point, and you get a total of 5, and you would weight that in that way anyway.
Yeah.
Instead of just, and if that were clearer in the rubric, then And one might realize, we really want you to serve in,
Underserved group.
thank you, serve an underserved group.
I think there were a couple of places in there too where you had to meet multiple criteria and my thought on it was, let's just give points for each level of the criteria, not require 2 or 3 of a given thing, but just weight each thing with points so that you score better as you hit the different, marks that we set. Is, just a way of coming at it and kind of flattening it a little bit. And maybe somebody only hits 1 point, but they have a good enough program otherwise to win the grant, but would be DQ'd because they didn't touch all the boxes that we had set for that particular thing. So I think making it more accessible by just weighing it per point as opposed to, creating requirements inside of it.
I think part of that needs to be something that the commission makes a final determination about. Is it something that we want to say, we think meaningfully involving, I'm not reading this well, I'm sorry about that. Is more important than, for example, it's more important to have meaningful involvement for underserved communities than it is to facilitating volunteer engagement of management. Is that more important to us than the other two, one of the other two? And it really does need to be something that we discuss at the side. And you can't just go off, wow, we got really excited about doing things for the underserved. Let's do lots of stuff here. And then later on down the road say, well, wait a minute, kind of left out things that were also important, such as volunteering, et cetera, and community organizations.
Aren't there other places within the scoring rubric where addressing underserved communities is like factors into the points, to the point system? There aren't.
That's
Yeah.
strongly, there is
I-
a question about, you have to list 3 community partners,
Uh-huh.
so.
Yeah, there was a question too about references as well. Are you providing supportive references for the activity or for the person who's running the group? That was the other question we addressed.
So I think,
In
yeah,
your
we're
application.
talking about a few different things, and these are questions that we need to decide today.
Yeah.
To get ready to open the grant. So
Yeah.
let's start with, so right now the structure is have 2 of these 3 goals or overarching goals related to community. Do we want to then reduce it where they can just do 1? And then as we do more of them, they get more points? Or do we want to keep it at least 2 of those goals? That's like part 1 of this question.
The first issue relative to the meeting the needs of the underserved is in the goals section, that very first one. That's where it seems to be most weighted. And that's where we had most of our discussion. Again, it's 5 points if you hit all 3. If somewhere in your presentation you say, yes, I include facilitating volunteerism, we build communities, and we serve the underserved. Well, but if, for example, facilitating volunteerism is really what's going on there, but they include a couple of people in the group who are a minority, wow, look at that, we achieved that, we ticked that box. Is that what we're looking for? Or are we looking for people to recognize that we want the program to serve the underserved?
Well, it's the meaningfully involved is the key
Yes.
there. That's the
There's
kind of bringing in authentic, like, I don't even know if serve is the right word, because serve could sometimes be construed as providing a service that they might not be involved in identifying that need.
exactly.
Um,
And meaningfully could be described as a vague phrase too. How do you define meaningful?
That's like what you would, I think we could possibly expand that, but you're kind of skipping ahead to the next question.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking of looking at that first section of the grant.
So right now I want to answer the question of whether we want to change anything from 2 of the 3. That's what it is right now. You have to get at least 2 of the 3 to receive any funding. Or do we want to reduce it to 1 of those goals?
I like
Where it's allowed.
2 of the 3.
I like the 1 and just give more points if you hit more of the points.
That's what I prefer as well. If we weighted, especially the one that we like the most, if we weight that with a 3 and the other 2 just get a 1, And
You
We-
achieve the goal.
If you
Right.
want to give a bonus for hitting all the points, then do that too. You know,
that's, then you get all 5 points.
Well, you get, you know, if you hit all.
This is part of what I think we've come across in this whole issue. This particular program has been going on for years, and people have worked very hard on this grant application system. And we've become aware of the fact that we are not, as a community, I would say in general, doing as much as we could possibly for underserved populations. And so we said, okay, let's be consistent, let's do something. But we need to put the language in so that it is clear and it's obvious, and it's not something that looks like a prejudicial slant of some sort. That's what we have to be careful of, that we're not saying, oh, well, let's see, if you're serving somebody of color, then we're gonna give you lots of points. Oh, you only have white people involved in that? No, you can't have as many points. That's gonna look
There are
biased.
white people that are in underserved.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do you put that, then how do you
So
determine?
we're still skipping
they're
ahead
underserved?
to the next question that I want to ask.
Okay.
That is getting into that. So Mary, I want you to answer whether you think we should stick with, because you're either gonna make it a tie or
Okay.
decide one way or the other. If we're gonna keep 2 goals of the community grant goals, which is right, that's the rules right now, is that they have to at least do 2 of these 3, these ones.
That's what I thought we were talking about.
That's what we're talking about. So the question is, do we reduce it down to 1, or they can just do 1? And can still get funding. If they're not, say they're facilitating volunteers, but not building community partnerships or not meaningfully involving underserved communities. Right now, they couldn't get funding if they only built community.
Well, that's because we give 5 points if they clearly connect with all.
That's
three.
because it's in the rules. That's because it's built into the rubric. Must score an average of 3, and 3 is do you hit 2 of
Right.
them.
Well, I like that particular concept, hitting 3. Right.
The question is 2, hitting 2 of them still.
I know that.
And I know you did talk about hitting all 3, but
But that's the benefit, if you get the award, if you hit all 3, if you don't, you might not. And so it's a
So-
points thing, you know.
okay, so I think we're tied at least.
So-
So I know you want to go above and beyond, but
Yeah.
we have people here advocating to go down, so I don't think we're gonna get there. at this
So what you're saying is that we should, in essence, revise this where if you have, well, so then you're saying we should not revise it, let's stay with what we've got. I'm good.
That
with
is what Tom and Roger are proposing, and so
Wait a minute, I didn't hear Tom and Roger propose that. What did you propose, Tom and Roger?
Propose that you only have to hit 1, or you just score each of those 3, you get points for each, and you don't have to hit 3, you don't have to hit 2, you just, maybe 1, but it's all about points. At the end of the day, who gets the most points wins. And so if you load those kinds of things with points, you don't disqualify anybody who maybe doesn't hit the 3rd point. I think part of my coming at this was to simplify it such that we're not just serving underserved communities, but maybe we're providing a vehicle to help the underserved serve themselves. And part of that's going to be by simplifying this process and making it more accessible for different ideas and different things. That's my take on it anyway. So I say reduce the minimum standards as much as we possibly can, and just let the points that accrue for meeting the various criteria be what carries the day for, any given project.
So what I'm hearing you say is that on this first goal, what you're basically saying is that if somebody only has facilitating volunteer engagement, they can still get 5 points.
No, they can only get 1 point because you have to hit all 3 to get 5 points.
And we're saying, but we've already had, that works.
But we're saying you have to have at least 2.
Where does that, I don't see that
Okay,
in the rubric. Where is that?
So I think
In the
what
first
we need
column.
to decide is
Oh,
I thank you for the way that you just explained that clarifies things a lot. And I actually do think there are a lot of meaningful projects that could come out of people just meeting one of these goals. And so what I would propose as kind of a compromise would be maybe we make it so that only one of those is required. And then the rubric, we can do whatever we want with the rubric and the points. Let's just say it's 6 points.
Yeah.
And for each community goal, you hit 2. So if somebody's only meeting one, no matter which one it is,
Exactly.
they get two.
They get 2 points.
But, and then if they're hitting two, they get 4 points, and if they're hitting three, they get
It's
six.
6, and your advantage comes as you make more
Right.
points.
And we should be 2 points for that, yeah.
Okay.
Well, if we wanted to weight it for and at one point I was under the impression we wanted to weight this third one, the meaningfully involved. So,
Yeah, let's move to that.
yeah, if we wanted to weight that one so that we really emphasized it, then we should give it a possible 3 points and the other two just 1 point each. Still for a total of 5 if you hit all 3.
That resolves the problem as well.
Yeah, either, however we want to score it, I just like the idea of simplifying and lowering the barriers a little bit inside of this.
And the thing that I think have to be language clear is that when somebody's making application, they get to see the rubric, they get to see how the
Absolutely.
application is going to be evaluated. So it
Absolutely.
needs to be clear, this is how this is going to play out, so that they're not blindsided.
Yeah.
And if we do choose to do just that, which is one of the things we did discuss, the notion of 3 points for meaningfully including underserved, and then 1 point for each of the other. I think you've said what the committee is looking at focusing on, to be clear about. This is our goal, this is what we want to see happen. But of course, if you have this fabulous plan and you don't get those extra 3 points there, maybe you'll get them somewhere else in the rubric. That's what you're thinking.
If it's a well-written grant and it's a good plan, that will not sabotage
No.
the whole point system.
Except that all the points, and on that first column, all of the higher points go for it if you've met all 3 if you meet all 3 goals. All of them have
Yeah,
that.
as
The
it
next
should.
one is the project clearly and directly aligns with all 3 of the categories.
So it might be nice to have a score for that, or equity kind of focused one, a little bit stronger equity one that would weigh it, even if they didn't hit all the other ones.
Say again?
Well, I guess that's what you're proposing, is if each of the other ones were 1 point each, and then the third meaningfully involving would be 3 points. Is that what you proposed?
That's what I proposed, yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And that would carry through with the second one as well. The next one.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
Okay, so you have goals. The first one is goals,
What are
facility.
you reading on?
The
rubric,
Right,
okay.
right.
So that open to.
So then the second one says the project clearly and directly aligns with all 3 of the category projects. So in that segment, you do the same thing. You
Yes.
would say, okay, if it's well done for level 3, they'll get 3 points. But if they didn't bother to include volunteers or anything volunteering, then they don't get that point.
Right.
And just as a heads up, when we did these rubrics and we did these delineations, there were literally some projects that were short of 1 point and didn't get in. So it can make a huge difference. You kind of need to be aware of that. Okay.
Okay. Well, obviously, this needs more like wordsmithing, which is A-okay, because I think if we're good with Roger's proposal and Tom's, if that's what we're calling them, then I think we made some good decisions.
Tom and Roger proposed.
Yes.
And maybe the way it looks to do the weighting, like you said, is instead of this like, kind of qualitative language, maybe for this category, it's, you get 5 points if you hit all 3 goals. You get 2 points for hitting the underserved communities goal, and you get
3, actually.
1 point for the other 2. That way, if, you hit, so you get 3 if you just hit that one.
Right.
And the most you can get is 5, and you get 5 if you hit
Right.
all of them.
Well, and then the logistics of these grants, almost all of them have all 3. Almost all of them. I mean, but I would say that a number of them lacked what you would call an emphasis on the underserved.
Yeah.
You might have said, well, we're gonna we'll put the signage in Spanish too, something like that. But it wasn't really something that you would say, oh, we're taking care of people who don't have enough food, and they don't have enough fresh vegetables, et cetera. So I think that's one of the reasons that it we're gonna see it come back at us that all of them are being met, but the question will be, how well did they define that third goal?
Well, I mean, that's where our judgment is to play a role, right?
That's right. That's why it's called a rubric.
Yeah, that's not a rule. It's a rubric.
Good.
Similar line of thinking, also curious if we wanted to allow less than, 2 of the category specific objectives. Sure, on the screen. I don't know if you all, I mean.
Oh, those things.
Yeah, do you have anything else to add to that? I'd just say that was a question that was still up in the air.
Oh, why they have to hit at least 2? I'm in the same place with this as I am with this other thing, is just score them as they hit these, points and, not limit who can, whose application goes through, because maybe they don't hit all 3.
Right, there's a total of 5 points available for this one. And
Well, part of this has to do with the fact that each of that is divided up into different categories, and they want people to really delineate in that category how much effect they're going to have.
Well, I think it's gonna be simple to hit 2 if you're,
It is, it's already simple.
it's pretty simple. I just don't like the requirement.
So, yeah, and I think, I was explaining like this first objective has been made to kind of integrate education into all of them. And I know we kind of threw up, why isn't that an overarching goal? To me, that feels like the way we do that is because those other goals are just kind of like the community ones that we just talked about. So I think that education kind of like, this is still where they could address it.
yeah, in fact, Tia, you explained to me that, so I threw out a lot of words in this table. And that because I was trying to condense it, and you explained to me that actually there'd been some effort to have promotes and educates in many places, the community instead of just promotes. So I am happy with that. But
Well, there's kind of a depth to education. Just promoting stands around and says we really need to eat better. Education shows how you do it. That's the point of that. It's more depth.
Right, is actually do the project, whatever it might be, you're going to educate by default.
Right.
And then I think the other 2, I feel like are aimed at, really specific gaps or opportunities as well within these categories that previous commissioners and staff have identified as like priorities that we would like to see across the community.
So is this similar to, I'm going back to the rubric real quick. This is just one category, conformity with the objectives of the category, right?
Yes.
So it's similar to the grant goal, like you were saying, where we could just, we could not have a limit on, or a limit on how many of these you need to hit. We could just score accordingly.
How many do?
So are these the only 2 categories like that? Because I remember, there's the carbon neutrality plan. How well is it aligned with the carbon neutrality plan?
That's in the
So
second.
these are called category specific objectives. So
Okay.
I'd be using category in 2 different ways, right?
Right.
They're talking about scoring.
I'm talking about, scoring categories, I guess. Rationale, recommendation, longevity, alignment. Okay, so it makes sense to me to score that in the same way as the grant goals. And then that is kind of like checking boxes and requirements. And then all of the remaining scoring categories are based on the project merit.
Yes.
So somebody who is, maybe an unsheltered person who's putting together a grant for something that they have identified within their community is very focused on only one objective in a specific category. So maybe they get the score from they're eligible for the program, and then they have, fantastic project rationale, innovation, so they might only have one of those things.
Laser
but-
focused on their one thing.
Right.
But they've got a
But
great
they have
thing.
the ability to put together a good idea.
Well, every single one of these categories has 3 category-specific objectives,
Right.
but there's a total of 5 points awarded, which doesn't really, if you hit all 3, let's.
Those aren't points issues. Those are statement to people that you should have at least 2.
No, we're talking about how
So
many
it-
points you get.
You are graded on how well you answer it as well. So
Oh,
it's not
okay.
necessarily just a
Not just
check.
checking box.
You
Yeah.
do get an extra point, even if it's just 2, you could get 4 points if you answer it more early. Better.
That's the second one there.
What, you mean second?
That's the second one. The second one is the conformity with objective specific in this category. So you're looking at that, that's where you get points with that.
I'm sorry, are we looking at this?
Yeah.
And you say second one,
It's the
usually,
bottom one, right?
this is the bottom row, but second counting from which way? In this way?
No, what I meant was, we started with, these first 2 were generic. We started with conformity with the overarching goals, and then the second one is conformity with objectives. You have the overarching goals, and then you have the objectives.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure what my question was now.
Can I make a suggestion? I remember when, I've been through this process long time.
Right.
And so has Mary. And I remember when I sat down and went through this with all the grants, when I was really in it, I had a lot of thoughts. And, the only thing I wrote down at the time, because I was so focused on getting through the workload of, actually reviewing these grants, the only thing I wrote down for myself was my notes for why I scored things the way I did. It would have been very, useful if I would have written down questions or comments I had about the scoring system and about the rubric. And at this point, I really don't remember particulars. It's been almost a year, but I think that this, like getting into the weeds this much about points and how we're scoring things, I think it would be such a better discussion right after we get through
Yeah.
reviewing all the grants,
Yeah,
because
I
we will all have our own experiences. We will all make observations about what works and what doesn't for each of us individually. And then it would just be such a more
That's true.
fruitful conversation, easier conversation to have. Because, I feel like we're just getting deeper down the
Well,
rabbit
in addition
right
to
now.
this subcommittee was just to look at how we're dealing with the equity issues.
Right,
And
right.
we really addressed that in that first thing where you get a little bit more points to the underserved. And we did a little different language in the introduction where the 3 overarching goals, I think the last one was, as opposed to and or, was just
True.
and. That's about all.
And I've got to
And
put
that-
it first instead of last.
And that really just addresses what we were trying to achieve. And of course, I think the other thing too is when we were looking at it, there were print types and things like that. Well, this would look better if we did that. And I think that was just to give Tia some help, because she's the one that ends up with all the production of it. It's not something that we necessarily produce.
I think,
So just leave it as is? Is that what you're proposing for both of those or specifically this one?
I'm actually just really interested in the opinion of commissioners who have been around for longer in this process. I don't really feel comfortable with the fact that we've got 2 people that have never been through the process and 2 people that are still very brand new to it.
Mhm.
I would like some institutional knowledge about why to our minimum requirements before we just scrap that. I mean, I think it's a good idea based on the discussion we've had, but I'm not sure that we're having an informed discussion.
And I think we should stay with what our whole goal was, which was to do what we can to have a broadening for the underserved. That's really the whole point.
No, the working
No,
group
was
is
that-
also to make these
Make
other
revisions.
changes as
Yeah.
well. It was both.
And I think that's my point in reducing the hurdles. You
Yeah.
know, that makes it more equitable. If it's easier to get in the game,
True.
it's easier to play.
That's
You know, how many points we want to give for any given thing, whatever. Make something up. But, you know, minimizing the obstacles was my objective in making this more equitable, or is what I thought would probably contribute to that as much as anything versus identifying a specific group that, you know, we feel might be an underserved one.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing.
Right, the definitions are going to be changed.
So we're dancing around
Mhm.
a lot of stuff. Yeah, I
So
don't think typically like this kind of discussion usually happens. Usually we have more time. It was just because we were working so much on that equity assessment
Mhm.
in those meetings that we, you know, have waited this long to create the working group. So I'm sorry that happened because I certainly.
So as we've already, observed, it's been a beneficial process. There have been good things that came from it. And so yes, lowering obstacles, lowering barriers increases accessibility. So that's a simple thing we can change and do.
Well, that had all to do with your accessibility and making sure we put them in places like libraries and put them in modern languages of the English, et cetera.
Yeah, I'd say if you all are open to it, let's just do that. And then we reassess after this year. This is who's in the room right now. And I don't think it strays from our equity goals for sure. Like you said, Tom, like I think if anything, it will make it possibly more accessible. So let's.
So do we need to take a vote on that, or do we?
We have
We'll
more
do it
to
all.
get through. Yeah, we'll
We'll
do it all at once. Yeah.
So just to be clear, what we have landed on for that is that of the 3 overarching goals of the sustainability grants, we will only require one be met. A minimum of 1. You have to meet 1 goal to qualify.
And we're just looking at qualification. We're not looking at evaluation for whether we choose that.
We're not talking about points or anything.
Fine.
We're just talking about
How well they met it or.
access to eligibility. Okay. Yes, yes, please.
I love this discussion and I love the thought process, absolutely. And I think the thing that's so wonderful about this grant program is that every year the commission reviews it to ensure that it is accessible and it's equitable. And I just really appreciate that. And I just wanted to chime in and say that if what the commission lands on doesn't feel like it's working, then you'll discuss it again. Yeah. So there's room, and this is a continuum of improvement. So, yeah, just nothing that's happening is gonna. Yeah. So if it doesn't feel right, there's an opportunity to constantly tweak it, and that's the beauty, I think, of this commission and this initiative, is it is that constant evolution. I know there are some other programs, not within this purview, but that there is an opportunity for the commission to constantly, check in and say, are we actually hitting all the marks in our goals? And is this successful and equitable? So I just really appreciate the thought and dedication to it. So thanks.
Thank you for making that point. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the most weighted information under eligibility. I was gonna say the most important thing under the eligible projects is selection of one of the categories, doing something with that.
Yes, Tia.
Thank you. I'm gonna keep us moving along because I have questions that I need us to address. So moving into more of our equity considerations, because we came out of the last meeting and the working group discussed more of our priority action steps, which can be found in the working group materials folder. I'm gonna go into the actual application and how we're pulling from these priority action steps. But one of the things we also wanted to talk about was alternative methods of submitting. And so right now, I feel really good about, before the language was like, you may turn in a Word doc if you request it from me really far in advance. And I just cut that language, like that's a totally acceptable way to, like, I'm fine with that. I can handle that. Then we also talked about offering paper applications in different locations, and I'm proposing, haven't checked with the libraries yet, but the 2 libraries, and then also having them at the sustainability office. Those feel like really realistic opportunities, and there are other city locations. And then
I wonder if we could have them at community centers as well, maybe.
And maybe high schools,
paper applications.
yes, like in the libraries at the high school, that kind of thing, that kids that might want to. There's no age group.
So it is a
Doesn't have to be
pretty long
21.
document, so it depends how many paper applications we want.
Maybe a flyer that says, go to this website then.
Well, that's an outreach method on the flyers.
Okay, sorry, Tia.
No.
Continue.
If there is maybe like 2 to 3 more that you will want to add to the list, I'm open to that. But I also don't want to be printing a bunch of paper applications.
That's absolutely right.
So, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
But printing,
But I also have
printing
the
a flyer
capacity.
that says, kind of like they did this project was paid for by the sustainability.
Yes,
Just a
that's on the
flyer that
list.
goes
Maybe a
out.
little marketing.
Okay, we're not there yet. Okay. And then the thing that Dre brought to us was, should we be considering a video application? We're looking specifically at application submission methods. And this is the one that I feel like it's really up to you all. And if you think it can still be scored well and equitably and.
I think so. I think it's a great idea. And you're right. I mean, somebody has a decent phone, they can do a nice video that then can be sent to us, and it's there. Maybe they don't have access to a good computer, or they're not good with language on a written form, but they're good with presenting. That's a good idea.
What do you all think about if you received one video application and had all these paper ones? Do you think?
I think it'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah, I don't care with that. If it provides an avenue for somebody to submit that they might otherwise not have, then that's great.
And as long as there's some clarity in terms of the framework for this video, I mean,
Yes.
I can envision somebody going, look at this wonderful project, blah, blah, but then not putting in the budget because they weren't even.
I think it has to
hit all the.
meet all the same
Yeah.
requirements.
Yeah.
It'll be judged on the same rubric.
Right.
There's no score for, like, I would just be, like, I think that there might be some tech savvy people out there that might be like, ooh, we're gonna do a video,
Yeah.
but that's not in the rubric.
Yeah.
So it's, as long as the rubric is all about,
Mhm.
does it meet these requirements and how much thought was put into this and what's the longevity of the project, then it could be a very simple video and get full points. And it could be the most elaborate produced video and get the same number of points, because at the end of the day, it's not about the quality of the video. It's about providing another avenue for submission.
Should there be any like time constraints?
Like the last 15 minutes.
15 minutes? Yeah. Seems reasonable.
That's what we did with you. It should be 15 minutes, right? That seems fair.
I wonder,
know.
yeah. How long does it take to
20
read a grant application out loud?
Just totally depends. Yeah. We have no. other
I don't know.
limitations.
I don't know.
Well, if they're doing video, they're cutting short on some things anyway. Because you're not having to write out a full description. You're saying, here it is.
I'll need to make sure we can figure out how to accept them in like a drive or something and how they'll get it to me actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, there might be size
Yeah.
Just size limits on the file.
Yeah, ultimately you need to talk to like our IT folks. What their
Just
system-
really-
Yeah, I don't
That's a
know
good
if we
idea.
have a, like, what, STP say, what were those, like, that were secure? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think we have to check with IT.
Yeah,
Yeah, you wanna put
So-
any bugs in your computers.
we'll try it. It's mainly the size thing. It's not gonna like email unless it's like on a drive or something.
Well, I mean, they could host it on their own, cloud or whatever and send a link for it and you just view the link. We don't.
Yeah,
have
they
to
can
host
post it in a Google Drive and
Right.
send the link.
Send the link.
Yeah.
Even, it's easy to do that on YouTube.
And
Yeah,
so if
or
we
whatever
could
they-
provide
yeah.
like 2 or
Different,
3 of
yeah.
those suggestions, I think that would be great. That would even help them. If they're like, oh, that sounds interesting, but I don't know exactly how it would get them, then yeah, Google Drive, YouTube.
Well, we've already addressed the other issue that sometimes when the person turns in an application, you have questions. You can go back to them and ask questions. So if somebody gives you a video, it's like, we're missing some of these pieces. You can still go back to them and say, we need to have you do this, blah, 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 et cetera.
Well, and I think when we talked about the videos initially, it was kind of more as a pitch process as opposed to the final grant application. It was, kind of a way to see if we could create more interest in the community to submit things and making, kind of a, 2 layers of submission, I guess, one of, here's my idea, and then that's where we would, maybe put some of the resources that are already available for, supporting grant writing and some of those kinds of things, for people that come, with something there as opposed to just, here's my application on tape.
I don't know if we thought about that one enough for this year.
Maybe not.
I mean, I don't care. They could text me a little pitch video and I can give them feedback, like I could add that.
Yeah.
I think when Dre suggested the video application, it was 100% accessibility for folks that might not have access to a computer to type it at, or that
Just
are not
somebody
good writers, yeah.
Younger who's
Yeah.
more into the electronic communication than I am particularly.
Right.
Or learning disabilities.
Right, right.
That's the other thing. Or
Um,
language.
Quick question, this all sounds good. Let's go down that road and accept video applications to, yes, can figure that out. I was just wondering if we wanted to keep this application completion and clarity, the first scoring rubric line. I just feel like all the other ones really get to that, all the other questions.
You think it's doesn't necessarily need to be done.
Not necessarily. But if that's like really common in other grant applications, then it's fine, but the other ones all really match up to questions and
Well,
specific
yeah, if it's not
outcomes.
neat and clean, you can't read it, you can't grade it, you can't consider it.
Then you
But if it's
will
a
get
video,
a
it's not.
0.
That's not a problem.
You're basically saying it seems like a superficial 2 points for not much worth. So you're saying.
It
kinda
seems like it's already
Just spell your-
addressed in all of the other
Spell your name
things.
for the test.
Yeah.
All right,
Do
let's
we
take
have
it
all
on.
the questions?
Let's take it on. Let's put
I
it
got
on.
most of my scores.
Amy, you fill out grant applications.
Yeah, I feel like I do remember this category, and it was like the thing that I saved until last, because you don't really know how to score on that until you've been through the whole application. But I had, yeah, you're right, those points are addressed in all of the other ones, but like for an I think that removing that would help to take away some of the bias with
Mhm.
with accessibility and equity and diversity issues we're talking about, because beautiful applications that are well-written and well-presented are a pleasure to review. And those are the ones where everybody's got the resources and the time and the support. And so, I was happy to give those 2 points. And there were others that were just not
There's almost a
well
way,
put together.
almost a way to disqualify somebody.
Well, it's only 2 points.
Yeah,
But there were some that I was, and so anyway, and I did not, in hindsight, I did not spend any time considering the reasons that those applications may have differed in quality. I did not look at that through an equity lens when I was scoring it last year. But that could be 100% due to equity issues, that difference in quality of an application. So I think that might get to the heart of what we're trying to do with the equity review to eliminate that, because you're right. All of those points, like the completeness, we are giving points according to how complete or how well done things are in every other category.
Yep.
That's a great suggestion, Tia.
Questions have, the scoring rubric tied to it, so.
In other words, we think we should take it out. That's something.
Okay. I'm like still hesitant, but,
No, I think that's really good, Tia.
okay.
So here's another question. This is superficial to me. Should the budget feasibility points be someplace else in the body of it and then start with conformity with the overarching goals? I think that's the first rubric question.
Oh, to make it like match the framing, so
Yeah.
it's easier for you to review and people to see. Yeah, I'll take a note of that and, if it will make more sense, kind of, is that the
Yeah.
proposal? Okay.
I mean, if you're going through the application, you're trying to address the different components. It's starting with the goals and objectives, maybe.
Yep. Tax information. I know that came up during our conversation and we did have a discussion with finance today. And yeah, individuals, it's showing us income. We have to, on the city end, we get a W-9 and a 1099. So individuals may be impacted by receiving the grant. So we'll include that language. We're working on a more broad disclaimer for all of our programs. So that would be individuals and businesses they mentioned, whereas nonprofits, they have a different taxing thing. So we can't give a tax advice, but again, we're working on a disclaimer that will include in that. And if there's any way where a person can, use a 501c3, I know sometimes that is kind of a question like, oh, should I be submitting a W-9? Or again, I can't really give them advice, but I can say that there might be tax liability.
Could we allow them that some of the grant funding be used to cover their tax cost? I mean, it's a $7,500 grant. If you're in a 10% bracket, that's $750. That's a pretty significant tax bite for trying to do something good.
We have explored that. I want to say 90% yes, I think we can, but let us check in again with finance and legal.
Yes.
Because there may be some little nuance that we're not familiar with, but we've been talking about kind of in that context, similarly to doing prebates instead of rebates. So we're getting into a lot of sticky territory for, not sticky territory, but we need to dive in a little bit deeper. So, but I love that personally. I think that's when we talk about equity,
Yeah.
huge thing.
Yeah.
That could push someone into a new tax bracket.
And it could discourage someone who's lying.
Exactly. So yeah.
Any way for them to qualify for 501(c)(3)? They're educating about the.
Yeah.
How are we doing on your list, Tia?
Well, we haven't gotten to outreach and timeline. Let's just scroll through the rest and see if there's anything else on the guidelines. So I'm gonna cut that. There's just edits here and there. So if you're curious about the original guidelines is in this folder and the proposed revisions are in this folder too, if you want to look at them side by side. Oh yeah, let's look at the application questions. I was gonna take out tax ID because I get that on their W-9 anyways, and I don't want someone to see it and be like, I need a tax ID.
You don't need it unless they get awarded the funding anyway.
Yeah, and I pull it up on their W-9 anyways, so that's just okay. The working group and I discussed this project narrative question. Currently it says in an appropriate detail, how does your project align with the vision of the Sustainability Commission? And I don't know if anyone else wants to add details, but we just felt like there was plenty of other goals for the grant. And that the project narrative would be sufficient with the rest of the question without that. And detailing how it aligns with the vision of the commission.
The vision's kind of goofy anyway. Community that thrives in response to the cultural crisis. It's a community that thrives in response to the cultural crisis. That needs to be rewritten.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, okay. Good. We just changed goals, overarching goals to just goals. Little thing. Okay, and then also part of our equity assessment is we talked about, we don't really have a lot of data. So we want to start asking questions. This first question is just, how did you learn about the neighborhood sustainability grant? We don't ask that right now. Why? You know, we just haven't thought about it yet. But, and this will help inform our outreach in the future and figure out what's working and, okay, this group did this and they won't be scored on this, completely optional. And they can do fill in the blank and they can also check prefer not to answer. And then we talked about demographic questions. This is also something we don't have data on. We can kind of pull out and infer about, you know, the communities that are being served based on their application, but we have limited demographic data about the applicant itself, which I think will really inform our equity efforts moving forward.
Those are good questions.
So, because we do get individuals and then like organizations applying, we kind of had to think about them separately because we don't think like an individual working for a nonprofit is like, we want to know about that nonprofit, then not that individual from that nonprofit versus an individual. We do want to know about that individual.
You put that as a caveat in the question here, that this is the following information is drawn up so that we can collect data relative to this application.
Yes.
Yeah, I just read that language.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah.
Good, okay, I hadn't seen it.
I got it from others and
That's perfect.
the equity advisory group helped us provide input on
Good.
like that we need a statement like this. It needs to be optional. We can't grade on it. Not yet. I
Yeah.
mean, we could figure out other questions if we wanted to do more in the future. But let's start collecting some data. So if anyone thinks of any other, and it's like, you know, we want data that's actually gonna tell us something, not just like random, but does help us meet our equity goals, which relate to
The only thing I can think of is when, oh, never mind,
No,
if
go ahead.
you already have that, if an individual, but there's sometimes 2 or 3 people that are making the application, it may not be an organization. That might be something you can put in an individual group, in your group. What's the general age or something like that?
and I just leave it open instead of like any drop down.
Just allow for plural individuals.
Okay. Yeah. With that. I just, and this is something I can talk to Jenna Ortega about too. She's kind of our main equity lead on her team. Is if there's any other kind of organizational questions we might want.
You've already addressed to the fact that they can't be organizations that want to overthrow the government, and things like that, so it should be okay.
I've already, yeah.
Yeah, no political
Yeah,
activity.
political or religious or whatever.
This is, yeah, this is
Although I think it's okay to be
gonna be
religious.
separate. We're not gonna,
They're serving a community.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. Because that one church got those
Yeah.
lights.
So if you think of any between now and the next week to add to this, let me know, and then the group can just vote like, hey, any additions sound good, but.
Seems like there should be more there, but I don't know what appropriate questions are. You know, maybe, well, it'd be interesting to know if they're like a nonprofit or a for-profit business.
Jan, the heading, do you want to just say why you want this? I know, it's all, you say it's optional, but you didn't say
Yeah, she does.
for the purpose of.
I do.
Yeah,
or-
there's a really good blurb in there.
Oh, great. All right.
I had the same question.
Not,
She
it
jumped
won't
down
have
from-
any effect
She
on
jumped
the
down from some
scoring.
of the questions to that. I had the same question.
Really excited.
Okay, we have,
Yeah.
4 minutes left.
To stay on time. Touch on outreach really quick. Again, this document is in the folder. This is nothing we have to vote on or even discuss, but over the next couple of weeks, throw any ideas at me for new outreach ideas. I didn't finish formatting this all the way, but I basically pulled this from last year's list of items and then started adding more. So,
Well, the point made earlier, you wanted to put actual physical applications out, but the other thing too, to just put flyers out at different locations, like high schools, et cetera. They don't need to have a whole 55-page application.
Yep.
Different pages.
so yeah, we didn't actually flyer last year.
Yeah.
Just because some of our events where we do collect data about, like the Fix It Clinic, for example, like nobody was checking that they heard about it on flyers. And so it just wasn't a priority, but I think in some key priority places, especially we have a Spanish flyer now, that'll be a good opportunity. And I like the idea of high schools or maybe some of our key community center, like Market of Dreams and the libraries and the food center. Okay.
Couldn't put them in grocery stores because we're closing all our grocery stores down.
Interesting.
Talk about,
Yeah.
talk about lacking of food.
All right, and then timeline. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, let's get your timeline down.
My notes. One note. So yeah, I want to propose that instead of the grant opening on September 1st, we move it up to August 15th or August 16th, Thursday or Friday. So the commission could vote on that. Does that sound okay?
That sounds wonderful. Do you want to make a formal proposal?
Okay, does anybody want to make I'll make a motion to vote on changing the application period. I motion to vote on changing the application period for the sustainability grants to opening on August
15th.
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 I second. I second. that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, all right. So let's have a vote on that.
Right.
Neighborhood sustainability grant applications, all in favor of applications opening on August 15th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no.
When do you want them closed?
They always close on September 30th.
Okay, so that study is your time, flyers out, et cetera. It's 15 days. Doesn't give you much time.
So that was an approval
Yes.
of
Excellent.
August 15th. All ayes.
All right, and then one more little thing about timeline is, and this could probably be discussed in an email after if needed. But we usually do a workshop with the Beautification in Action grant team, which is another slightly smaller but complementary grant opportunity run by the city. And often people actually apply for both if it's a applicable project. And so these are the dates that work for them. And their grant closes on September 15th. So they don't like later September ones, but we could do a separate. Last year I only did one workshop, but we could re-add another second one or expand the grant support hours.
And these workshops are for people in general who want to fill out an application. It's not, we're not talking about the two of you two getting together to talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, informational and grant support. So going through the application questions, answering their questions, and then they start running ideas by us as well. And then my proposal is that each commissioner either helps at a workshop, support hours, or tabling at least once, and then also helps with some other outreach element that is a little bit less time intensive. Does that sound good to everyone?
I'll take flyers.
Yes, absolutely. Be amazing. Okay.
I used to do it for the Arts Council. I guess I can do it for you.
Commissioner status, okay. Any thoughts on these dates? And again, maybe, so usually we have one commissioner join at the workshop too.
Oh, okay.
And so I can see also if Kristen's available, for these, or last year, the grant support hours were really worked well for her schedule, for example, so.
They're from 5 to 7:30. Where are they held?
That's, last year was at the sustainability office,
Okay.
but we can do, it depends what kind of, if we want like a hybrid meeting. Currently, the East Side Library doesn't have the capability to do that, but maybe that's just the in-person one later in September.
For me,
Libraries would be a good place for it. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, for me personally, like availability wise, the 27th and the 5th are good dates.
Cool, okay. Sounds good. Okay. Any other questions, comments? You can keep throwing ideas on the outreach list. We don't have to like go past the outreach list, so.
And if you'd send an email to all of us about these dates, when you want us to help you with things.
Sounds good, and I'll make an ask, sign up for one of these.
Yeah.
Awesome. You do amazing work.
Yeah.
Oh my
Thank
gosh,
you
you're
for keeping the phone.
so good.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying not to keep you more. I forgot my iPad when I went out today.
All right, the only other thing I think is voting on all the materials.
Okay, so, I can't really summarize every single thing that we discussed today. So let's vote on accepting all of the changes that we agreed on here today, including the application changes, the rubric changes, the application window changes, formats, everything. All in favor of accepting these changes?
I
Anybody against these changes?
Did you need a second?
Well, I didn't motion for the vote. Tia kind of. There's still.
gonna second, then you asked for a vote.
We were with modified Robert's rules of order. Did we tell you?
I'm
that?
still
Modified Robert's
working, I'm
rules
still
first?
working on learning Robert's rules, as you I'm sure have all observed, so, so that passes. Everybody agrees,
Yes.
thank you. And then, let's do a quick to and from. Would anybody like to mention anything happening between now and our next meeting to bring to our attention?
What could we actually do with this recycling, idea that Ward brought up is kind of my question. How can we engage in that? I mean, it sounds like we'd be trying to usurp authority, which I don't know how well that goes over.
I'm actually very excited about this because I've been talking to Tia and I asked her to bring it to Sustainability Division staff about the Sustainability Commission kind of taking on community initiatives that the Sustainability Division could use support on, and recycling was exactly what I mentioned as like one thing that I am really interested in. So, I think we should get this on the agenda and work with the Sustainability Division, because the last thing I want to do is like pull at threads and cause problems. But I am very interested in what our recycling program looks like, in details about what we can recycle. And I'm also interested in how we can support that program, helping meet our carbon neutrality goals, because I know that there are probably a lot of emissions related to that. So I'm really interested in figuring out how to do something effective. And I'm really interested in your help with that and your updates and your data for the last 10 years and all of that. So
Do
I
we need
think-
to engage the waste management group somehow and?
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll have to have solid waste come, and as Ward noted.
Think about that sentence. We'll have to have solid waste covered.
I know, to talk through it, because we have and we are in the process of a background check, so this will be my update really quick. For our waste prevention staff person, which has been vacant since April. So we're in background check right now. So hopefully we will have a new staff person in September. But sustainability's role and solid waste roles are very different. And so I think it would be helpful for the commission to have a better understanding. We've got a nifty spreadsheet that says, this is what we do and this is what they do. Because historically, we had picked up a lot of, if you will, for lack of a better term, slack. So the waters got muddied. But now we have a very clear, we focus on prevention and they focus on diversion and so forth. So I think it would be helpful just to have a really robust conversation before NSG review time, because I know commission will get super busy during those months. In an ideal situation, we could wait until September or potentially October, so our new staff person can be
It sounds like this would be a great first thing for them to help us tackle.
here. Right, that's what I'm thinking. And I think you're gonna be really excited if all goes well with
Awesome.
our new staffer.
So the notion of having a regular agenda item, though, it has to do with recycling. With the gentleman from our community who's willing to come in and say, this is how this works. Can we put him on the next agenda just so he can go through all this stuff with us and explain us what it is? Or is that not appropriate to talk about that now?
I think maybe not appropriate to talk about right now, because I think it depends on how we decide, what we decide our actual next steps are gonna be. And I think that putting a discussion on next month's agenda to either start those next steps or define what we're gonna do, because I think Nicole's suggestion about waiting until the new staff person who would lead this is on board. I think that is a smart move. So I think we just, we'll talk about it, but
Having it be an agenda.
Yeah,
item, that's what
I'm
thought.
really interested in your offer to engage on this. So we'll
Yeah,
figure
it's
that out.
it's awkward, it's definitely awkward, but there is nobody else, you're it. So
Yeah.
there's nobody to talk about this in the city, there's no commission for recycling or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
There's no solid waste.
yeah,
commission,
no solid
Yeah,
Public
waste,
Works Commission.
and we're not gonna add one.
Then that sounds like a really meaningful thing that the Sustainability Commission could take
Yes.
on. Yeah, so.
Even if it's information, you're not really necessarily trying to put pressure on the solid waste people, you're just getting
No,
information.
we're just trying to move forward with the solutions that are best for our community.
Yeah,
And
our job
it's
is to get
targeting
rid of
about-
the stuff, it's our job to think of better ways to not have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have any sharks. They're gonna-
So- Future agenda item request is the next item, and I would say, we'll get this on a future agenda, whether it's next month or when it's appropriate to discuss, but this is on our, docket
Yeah, that's all I asked for is.
Okay.
have it on agenda.
priorities, and I think that's exciting. Okay,
Should we move to adjourn?
would somebody like to move to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
So it's the last one sitting here. I guess it's-
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.
Third.
Oh, look at that. We adjourned 10 minutes late. We started 10 minutes late.
Oh, that's perfect.
2 hours. Well,
I could give you a little feedback
Thank you, everyone.
on one of the grants you gave, was tool sharing for co-op on Makerspace.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And at the time,